Let me comment on the first reading from the letter of St. Paul to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verses 10 to 20. In this letter, St. Paul says that we are fighting against spiritual forces of evil, meaning against the devil and his demons. We need an armor to fight them. And what is that armor? It is called the armor of God. At the time of St. Paul, the Roman soldiers used several items of armor. We see Roman soldiers in the movies, no? A soldier used a helmet, a leather belt, a breastplate, a shield, and a sword. These are his armor. Now, in the spiritual combat, our armor is the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Holy Spirit, as enumerated by St. Paul. With this armor of God, we can defeat the enemy. With God's help that comes to us through prayer and supplications, and with the vigilance on our part, we will win in our combat against spiritual enemies. When you think of what the devil is doing today in this present time, you can imagine the globe being gradually covered by a black ink, the dark works of Satan. Think of how many abortions performed in all parts of the world, even here in our country. Can you imagine in our country 500,000 a year of babies aborted? 500,000 every year in the Philippines. Divorces, same-sex union, corruption in government departments, as 2 days ago revealed even by President Duterte. Murder, rapes, wars in various places in the earth. Riots, destruction of properties, intolerance against Christian belief. All this leads to burning of houses of worship and churches and many other evils. Satan must be very busy during this time, these days. If Jesus were alive, if Jesus were here, of course he is alive, no? Jesus were here today as he was 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem. What would he say? This is an evil generation, living in an evil time. The devil is making use of the so-called terrorist, Islamist, jihadist, for the devil's agenda, which is to make people satanic worshippers. We can say even this coronavirus pandemic is part of Satan's strategy. This pandemic makes people disconnected with one another, even at the time when a loved one is dying and you cannot be present for fear of contamination. The lockdown is not only for protection of others, it is also for cutting off connection, especially with our loved ones. And when you are disconnected, relationship suffers. to destroy relationship is part of the devil's work here on earth. In today's gospel, Jesus is being warned by some Pharisees to hide from King Herod, who wanted to kill him. Jesus said that he must continue his work to heal the sick and to drive away demons, and that no danger of his life could prevent his work. Jesus knew the dangers he was facing, but he was not afraid. What was important for him was to continue his mission, come what may. Then Jesus said, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how many times I wanted to gather your chicks under. I wanted to gather your children as a mother can gather her chicks under her wings, but you refused. You were unwilling. Time will come when Jerusalem would be totally destroyed." Historically, Jerusalem was destroyed in the year AD, 70 AD, when the Roman soldiers entered the walled city of Jerusalem, burned its houses, and killed its inhabitants. This goes to show that we are responsible for our actions. God, who is just, rewards those who are good and gives what is due to those who are evil. There is a saying, what we sow, that also we shall reap. The people of Jerusalem sowed evil, unbelief, refusal to recognize Jesus as the Messiah, and then putting him to death by crucifixion. And thereafter they harvested, they reaped evil, the destruction of their city, and perhaps the damnation of their soul. Let us remember what God said to Jeremiah the prophet, Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 10. This is what he said, "I, the Lord, search the heart and test the mind to give everyone according to his conduct." That means salvation depends on God. Salvation depends also upon our conduct. God bless us all.